Okay, there we go. It's a bit of an exciting day. It's our third time. Hello, happy Tuesday, but whenever this video finds you will be the perfect day because we're going to talk about beliefs versus assumptions and the power in shifting the word that you associate with beliefs and moving them into assumptions and what it makes available to you. My name's Erin Rogers. In case for some reason this video flows its way to you outside of following me here, I am an intuitive mentor channel, and we're going to talk about what I talked about with all my clients yesterday. It was a hot topic. I think Neptune might be in retrograde in the moment, and people were really, I think, getting caught in some thought loops that weren't helping. So we're going to talk about some looping thoughts as well as beliefs versus assumptions. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. We're in Mexico. I think it all does a girl good. And so I was listening to a podcast, so I won't take credit for it, but I've been experimenting within my own life. And it was Alex Hormozi, who's got, I think, some pretty interesting things to say periodically. He's grown a few successful businesses, and I just really like his straight talk advice. It just really gets me in the heart. And so what he said was, he's like, it's really hard to change a belief, actually. And it's hard to change a belief partly because we don't want to be wrong. Your past self doesn't want to be wrong. The part of you that held that belief doesn't want to be wrong. But what if you just let all of your beliefs be assumptions? I'm just assuming this is true. I'm just assuming this is what's happening. Does using the word assumption versus belief, specifically for the beliefs that definitely don't serve you ultimately, if they're the thing that's keeping you from the growth, expansion, or the next stage, if you just used it as an assumption, would more become available to you? So the example, let's see if I can give the example from yesterday that feels supportive. This one of my clients had a former partner and and family that had her saying things to herself that were very unsupportive. Just, the things we all say, right? Like, I'm difficult. It's me. I'm the one who creates this. I've got to fix it. I've got to do these things. And I was like, yeah, you could. But that sounds like some sort of negative belief that you've got looping, because you actually don't know what they're thinking. You didn't expressly have the chance to talk about that to them in depth. And instead of fixating on the fixing, what would happen if we moved it to I'm assuming, hello, I'm assuming that they believe this about me. I'm assuming these pieces versus I believe I am this person who is this way. Because once we use I am statements and belief statements, they're cemented in there, which is why affirmations and other sort of verbal cues can work. So when she moved it into an assumption, what if you're just assuming those things? What becomes available to you when you take it out of the belief category into the assumption category? Does it become kinder to yourself? How does it sit in your body, right? How does a belief sit in your body versus an assumption? An assumption to me lends to curiosity, and if curiosity is available, another possibility is there. And so as this person went through that reflection with me, and I'm talking about the things that we're talking about now, like, if your belief about yourself is wrong, and we actually hate being wrong, that's one of the things we hate the most, that can be the barrier to even changing the belief, versus an assumption. What else could you assume that would be supportive? What could be a supportive assumption that you could offer yourself instead? And she was like, that I'm easy to love, that was just the way that came about, but it's no longer a supportive match. Maybe for this person, the partner was representational of a pattern that was not able to be resolved with the originating person, in this case perhaps a family member. And so because the pattern wanted to be shifted, this partner had come along And so the assumption was, what if you were just with that and you, instead of being like, these are definite facts about who and how I am, what if they were assumptions that were being asked to be looked at and transformed? And so she did some inner child work, which was great, and went back and took care of that part of the self that had first really held on to those ideas. And often you'll notice the belief, if it's strong and it's like your mind knows for sure, it might be because it came about in childhood when there was not enough information or our experience in this lifetime to understand the full picture. So we are going to create an answer within ourselves to survive within that environment. So let's recap. Beliefs are beautiful if they're serving you. They're not if they're not. And so if there is a belief loop you are stuck on, and I'll give a few more examples that I had some people submit. If you just tried it on, don't even have to keep it, just try it on and say, what if this belief was an assumption? I'm assuming. And do you notice that your body kind of feels less attached, committed, needing that answer to stay within it? And you try on a new phrase. If you've ever heard of Byron Katie's work, you could kind of do what the opposite might be true. You might just be like, what's the more loving answer? Generally speaking, situations and people, no matter how challenging it is, and Lord knows I felt this way, it comes to you so that you can see it more clearly. That's like going to bring up the subconscious into the conscious for transformation, seeing it from a new perspective. And so for me, when I go, oh, okay, I'd rather not, but, and then I can even sort of like lessen my frustration or fixation with the person. I mean, okay, great. This is something that is just available to me to transform, to see from a different perspective, to discover what else could be true, to create a better assumption that supports me in my growth. It's not about like avoiding your role in it. It's not about not being present to what is. But if you're just saying mean things to yourself, to say mean things, to keep yourself in the known, in the familiar, in what is you've experienced before, create an assumption so there is some possibility to transform, to be taking ownership of what actually is happening versus the commitment to the story that's lived in your body for 30 years. And then often I would say anything that feels like a really strong mental loop, you know, most things, I guess, at this point, I go back to childhood. So you can do this alone or with someone that's the right support system for you. Just check in, be like, how old was I when I first thought that thought, consciously or unconsciously? And sometimes for some clients, it looked like I was 19. I'm like, okay, so let's look at it at 19. I'll have a slightly different flavor at 19 and we'll go back, and it generally originates those formative years at 0 to 7. And another example I had was someone saying that I keep fixating on doing all of the small tasks that I need to get done before I am willing and able to tackle the big thing, the big goal, the thing I need to do. Like I'm really fixated on those things need to happen before that thing can happen. And I think that's like also, I always listen to myself or my clients. I'm like, God, we're so smart, aren't we? Your brain, your being, your subconscious is so smart. What a great idea. What a great idea to keep yourself busy with all smaller tasks. So one, you know you can complete them successfully, but they aren't contributing to your goal. Two, if anybody in your life or you are reflecting on your day, you're like, well, I was really busy. So great, you're validated in how you're spending your time. And then three, it keeps you from actually ever tackling or getting or stepping into the bigger thing that you might have some fear around. Fear around because I've never done it before. Fear because if I do that thing, I might be seen. Discomfort because if I do this thing, I might be wrong. Just all the like discovery pieces of you that come up when you step into something you haven't done before. Or you fucking might nail it. And so But you could be busy with the small things for the rest of your life. You know, there's always going to be laundry. There's always going to be 95 dinners to make. There's always going to be the small little tasks that need to get done. And so how can you, I don't know, time box to make sure those things get done, meal prep, get a neighborhood kid to come over and pay them $20 to do the laundry? I don't know what's possible in people's lives. But is that, when you really step back, is that what's eating up your time? Or is it that and all the time that you're spending thinking about doing the thing? So that's one. The second part of being in that type of loop is I would be curious about, I must sound so Canadian. When in your life were you rewarded for completing small tasks consistently and successfully? And when was it either a familial pattern or your own pattern that says we don't take risks? That's the unknown. We don't take that risk. Did you adopt that? And so instead of trying to fix the family pattern of belief, you go, so what are you assuming about taking the big move? I'm assuming it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of time. Okay, but you're just assuming it. You don't actually even know yet because you haven't tried. And so when you switch it from I believe I need to do these other things first to I'm assuming I need to do these other things first, and could I enlist the support of my family? Could I actually just get rid of some of these things that seem important but aren't? Could I hire out for it? Could I time box it that I just put on jock jams on Saturday morning, get it all done? I grew up playing lots of sports. Jock jams really get me going. And then instead of looking at the thing and being like, I believe this is going to be really big and hard, be like, I'm assuming it's going to be big and hard. But what's the next small step I could take? And could I just put an hour in my calendar every Sunday night at 9? Because I know the kids will be asleep, or whenever, right? When people are napping, or you don't have kids and you got Monday morning, or when you get to work, or whatever it is. But could you actually consistently show up for that and then see what becomes available? Another one that I thought was really powerful was, I believe people are taking advantage of me. Well, shit. That's going to be hard to get out there in the world and get excited about things if that's where your belief system sits. And also, it's one of those ones that would be scary to be wrong about, right? We don't like being wrong about our beliefs. So again, I think a really powerful one to move into an assumption. I'm assuming this, and this person, I know some of their history, so I might say, it's continually caring for the parts of you that perhaps felt like that did happen. Not even in big ways, right? Maybe you just had an older sibling that was a bit of a bully and made you go and get the snacks every time because they would trick you into seeing how fast you could run, and then get the phone and answer the door. And for whatever reason in your adult life, it sits in your body as, actually, they took advantage of my enthusiasm. And I don't want that to happen again. Maybe. Well, could you move it to an assumption of what else might be available so that you don't see people through the lens of that belief, right? That's a belief, and so then you're looking at the world through the belief of people take advantage of me. If we get into vibration, then you're potentially a vibrational match for just seeing that clearly. It's not even that it is or isn't happening. It's the same idea as I tell you to look for all the blue things in the room, and then I ask you what's red, and you're like, I didn't see anything that's red. It's the same idea. And so the offering today is, if the thing you believe is true became an assumption, does that feel like your body has a possibility of seeing it from a new place, where your mind doesn't have to fixate and look for the belief to be reaffirmed everywhere you step through life? Does perhaps the possibility of assumption lead to curiosity, which allows you to see things from a new perspective, which brings some levity to your experience? Is there anyone here that has any examples of something they're looping on? And if not, we can always come back to this with other questions. But for me, I think the part where this was really helpful has been in business and in love. So in business, just being like, I know I don't want to do it the way I'm seeing it be done, but there's part of my belief system that says if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you can't have a successful business. But because it was a belief, it was like I couldn't see all the different ways that I personally would do it, or the creative ways that would make me feel lit up, which then I would trust would find success in its own unique way. But as soon as I was like, I'm assuming that's how you have to do business. Oh, okay. Don't mind me. Just some sensitive skin. I was like, oh, I'm just assuming. So what else could I assume? And then I was able to write like, I don't know, 10 or 20 or 30 like assumptions of different ways to do business. And then it just frees up my mind to find those examples if that's what I want. It creates possibility when I look out in the world to see it in different ways. And then it also encouraged me to actually like seek out different ways of doing things. My midheaven's in Aquarius. That might mean nothing. It means Aquarians. They like to do things a little differently, like to be out of the box. And then the same in love. So I had some pretty tough stories I was committed to around dating or finding a partner, who I was in relationship to those that I met. They weren't good. They were probably like my 12-year-old self out there dating, and she was just getting over a unibrow, you know, like she wasn't the highest version of my confident self. And I'm still really working on that one, because that was like, I could work all day, I could chase a goal, I can do all those things, but like love is definitely the corner of the universe, the part of my experience that I love big, but being in relationship has been the most expansive part of my experience. And so currently I'm working on the assumptions that were not supporting me, or the beliefs that were not supporting me, and moving them into assumptions, and then creating, honestly, just ones that are more fun. More fun. Let's not get all difficult and crazy and hold beliefs that are going to keep me back, because I can't say they're intrinsically true, those beliefs. And they don't allow me to be the best version of myself. And so that is one of the other places that I am taking belief into assumption and just creating freedom, because that is an assumption. It doesn't have to be, so it doesn't have to be true. But I think that's all I have to say about this today. I really liked all the ways that we were able to create transformation yesterday for, I don't know, it's me and my spirit team. You should know when I say we, it's always me and my spirit team. For my clients yesterday. If you watch this replay and you have something you're looping on that you think might be fun to talk about on a live, you can stay anonymous, or you can come and join and put some information in the chat as I move through this with you. I love to be in response. She's a generator. And yeah, if you are looking for support in 2023, I do have 2 spots open in my mentorship. If your little heart flutters, if your sacral says yes, if your emotional wave needs 24 hours, I will be here. I would love to support you. I will have more experiences and conversations coming your way, because we're just going to do it the way it works for me in business, because it's way more fun. Anyways, I hope you have the most magical day. Know that whenever this comes to you, it'll be the perfect day to receive the information. And if you ever got questions, send me a DM. I'll do my best to answer them.